As you may guess from the title of the video, this is a spoiler video talking about the spoiler aspects of Spider-Man Far From Home. If you haven't seen the movie or don't care about the spoilers, keep watching, but if you do, click off this video and go watch Spider-Man Far From Home, you'll love it. So, let's start with the end, shall we? So there's a post-credits scene where Spider-Man is swinging around, doing his thing, and he sees this big TV screen, and there's a guy talking about Spider-Man, and guess who it is? It's J.K. Simmons reprising his role from the Raimi trilogy as J.K. Simmons. I was not expecting that at all, and I just couldn't contain my excitement. I just yelled out with excitement when I saw it. He didn't have the same kind of hair, but anyway, it was him, and he just kills it. And we learn that they're blaming Spider-Man for the attack of the Elementals, which is true J. Jonah Jameson fashion. And during that same scene, there's some recorded video that Mysterio took before he died, where he reveals the identity of Spider-Man. Now, this has happened several times, more than several times in the comics and other media as well. So I'm not sure what kind of repercussions this is going to have, how this is going to affect Peter Parker in future movies, or whether it will actually have any kind of consequences. But now people know who Spider-Man is. Now, before I said that Mysterio died, I'm not entirely convinced that he is dead, because it's Mysterio. He's good with illusions and manipulating people and deceiving people. He's good at that kind of thing. So I would not be surprised if he came back for a future movie. He's hoping for a Sinister Six movie. But I wouldn't be surprised if he came back and he just said, "Ha, I fooled you all. It was just an illusion, I died." So we'll find out in future movies, I guess. I talked before in my previous video that a lot of the movie relied on MacGuffin knowledge. So when Peter Parker gets the glasses from Happy that Tony gave him, Edith, which is $1 billion piece of technology that gives him access to attack drones and all that kind of thing, why would you give that to a teenager? I don't know. A lot of it relied on, obviously we know that Mysterio is really a bad guy. If you have even the slightest knowledge on Mysterio, you would have known that would be the case. I knew that Mysterio would be the bad guy ultimately. But a lot of the movie relied on people knowing that Peter would get Edith. So I don't know how the ex-Tony Stark employees knew all that, how they knew he was going to get it, and they knew that he was going to give it to Quentin Beck eventually. So a lot of the movie seemed to be riding on that, and it didn't really seem that believable to me. And at the end of the movie, we see that Nick Fury and Maria Hill are actually being impersonated. It's not really them. It's Skrull and his wife, I'm trying to remember her name, Soren, and they're impersonating them, and it wasn't really them in the movie. Wasn't expecting that. Well, no really real way you could expect that to happen. And then in that scene, we see that Nick Fury is on a spaceship somewhere out in space, telling the Skrulls to get back to work because they must work for him now, apparently. But I think this may be leading up to the creation of S.W.O.R.D., which is, I don't know that much about S.W.O.R.D., but I do know it's basically S.H.I.E.L.D., but in space. So that would be interesting to see in future movies, because humanity now knows there's bigger threats out there, and they're going to need something bigger to help defend against them. But with Talos impersonating Nick Fury, we've got to ask the question, how long has he been impersonating him for? Because he could have been Nick Fury in all the previous movies, from Captain Marvel leading right up until now. We don't know. It could Nick Fury probably had nothing to do with the Avengers or anything. He was just chilling up in space getting S.W.O.R.D. ready. Not likely, but just thoughts. And I liked how Quentin Beck was an ex-employee of Tony Stark, and all the other people that used to work for him too were just disgruntled with him and formed together in order to get back at him. Well, he's already dead. But anyway, and we see one of the employees as well, who was the guy who was getting berated by Obadiah Stane for not being able to make an arc reactor. He reprises his role. I thought that was pretty cool as a callback to the first Iron Man movie. And I like the idea of Quentin Beck being an ex-employee of Tony Stark. It's not in the comics at all, but it's a new kind of reality for this series of movies. And it was pretty cool because we find out he invented BARF, which is that holographic kind of technology that we saw in Captain America Civil War. And he just didn't like it. I wouldn't like it if my technology was called BARF either. Honestly, what were they going to do if Peter Parker didn't give Quentin Beck the glasses? What was their plan B? Just punch him and then just take him off him, or try and fight him somehow, or manipulate him into giving them. I don't know. I don't know how they knew he was just going to hand him over to someone. And Mysterio's illusions were really cool. I legitimately could not tell if Peter Parker was in the real world or seeing illusions, or if he was back in the real world, or I couldn't tell what was going on either. And in some of the illusions as well, I saw some callbacks to some of the comics that not that I've read, but I know of. Like, one example is that Spider-Man thinks that he's been shrunken down and there's a giant Mysterio, but it isn't really. He's really normal size and there's a gigantic robotic Mysterio. Comics are dope. There was a tiny little scene where Mysterio was larger than Spider-Man. I thought that was a callback to that. But his illusions were really good. When Mysterio was revealed to not actually be from another universe, I was like, oh, so there isn't a multiverse. But then I remembered Avengers Endgame. They introduced there is a multiverse in multiple timelines and all that kind of thing. So there is a multiverse, but Quentin Beck was just lying. He must have somehow known about that and just said, oh yeah, I'm from another universe. Everybody will believe that. But I imagine there is probably literally hundreds of things that I didn't notice in this movie. If you notice something I didn't notice, or some kind of fun fact or a bit of trivia, or a little bit that you noticed in the movie, please comment below and let me know. I would absolutely love to hear it. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to me ramble on about a movie for a few minutes. Thank you again, and I'll catch you next time.